Have you ever wondered what makes you, you? It's a question that has intrigued humanity for millennia. We are a species that thrives on individuality and uniqueness. Think about it for a moment. Each one of us is different, not just in terms of our physical appearance, but also in our personalities, our talents, and even our health. Some of us can sing like nightingales, while others can crunch numbers like a supercomputer. Some of us have an uncanny knack for remembering faces, while others can run a marathon without breaking a sweat. So what's the secret behind this incredible diversity? What's the science behind you being you? The answer, my friends, isn't found in the stars or in some philosophical treatise. It's much closer than that. What if I told you that the answer lies in a tiny microscopic structure within your cells? Yes, the secret of your uniqueness lies in your genes. How intriguing is that? But let's break it down a bit. What exactly are genes? Well, think of genes as your body's instruction manual. They're the blueprint that makes you, well, you. Each one of us has a unique set of these blueprints that determine everything from the color of our eyes to our height and even to some of our behaviors. Now let's delve a little deeper. These blueprints or genes are made of a molecule called deoxyribonucleic acid, more commonly known as DNA. Picture DNA as a twisted ladder or a double helix, with each rung of the ladder being a pair of chemicals called bases. There are 4 types of bases in DNA: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, often shortened to A, T, G, and C. The order of these bases is what determines the instructions in our genetic blueprint. But where are these genes? They're not just floating around in our bodies, they are neatly packed within the nucleus of our cells on structures called chromosomes. Humans typically have 23 pairs of chromosomes, 1 set from each parent. And on these chromosomes, that's where we find our genes, our unique set of instructions, and there are a lot of these instructions. The Human Genome Project, an international scientific research project, has estimated that humans have between 20,000 to 25,000 genes. Each one of these genes has a specific role, instructing our bodies on how to build a specific protein. And it's these proteins that perform all sorts of functions that keep us alive and functioning. So, there you have it. Genes, our very own personalized instruction manual made of DNA and housed within our cells, dictating everything from our physical traits to some aspects of our personality. The complexity and the wonder of it all is truly astounding. So these tiny genes hold the instructions that make us who we are. But how did we come to know about these genes? Our journey begins in the mid-19th century, with a humble monk named Gregor Mendel, who had a keen interest in heredity. Mendel, often called the father of genetics, conducted a series of experiments with pea plants in his garden at the St. Thomas's Abbey in Brno, then part of the Austrian Empire. Mendel observed how traits like seed shape, flower color, and plant height were passed down from parent plants to their offspring. Through careful experimentation, he proposed 2 fundamental principles of inheritance: the law of segregation, which stated that each organism has 2 alleles for each trait, and the law of independent assortment, which explained how different traits get passed independently from parents to offspring. Fast forward to the early 20th century, when the structure and function of cells were becoming clearer. Scientists knew that the nucleus contained the material responsible for heredity, but what was it? Enter the molecule we now know as DNA. In the mid-20th century, scientists James Watson and Francis Crick, building on the work of Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins, discovered the double helix structure of DNA. This was a game changer. DNA was found to be the long-sought genetic material, the physical basis of Mendel's laws. These breakthroughs led to the establishment of the concept of genes, segments of DNA that carry instructions for making proteins, the building blocks of life. DNA's structure revealed how it could carry information from one generation to the next, providing a molecular explanation for Mendel's principles of inheritance. This marked the beginning of a new era in understanding ourselves. With the discovery of genes and the decoding of the DNA molecule, we had unlocked the blueprint of life. We began to see how traits could be passed down through generations, how life could be diverse yet connected, and how we, as individuals, are unique yet part of the grand tapestry of life. We had begun to unravel the mystery of what makes us us. This marked the beginning of a new era in understanding ourselves. Now that we know what genes are and how they were discovered, you might be wondering, how do these genes work? To understand this, we need to dive into the world of molecular biology. Genes are like the blueprint for building a house, except in this case, the house is you. More specifically, genes provide instructions to create molecules called proteins. So, how does this work? Genes are made up of DNA. A double helix structure with a backbone of sugar and phosphate groups, connected by pairs of 4 types of molecules called nucleotides: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. The order, or sequence, of these nucleotides forms the specific instructions for building proteins. The process of creating proteins from genes is a 2-step dance called gene expression, which includes transcription and translation. In the first step, transcription, the DNA unwinds, and one of its strands serves as a template to produce a molecule called messenger RNA, or mRNA. This mRNA is a copy of the gene, but in a form that can leave the nucleus of the cell where DNA is housed. In the second step, translation, this mRNA travels to a part of the cell called the ribosome. Here, another type of RNA, transfer RNA or tRNA, reads the sequence of the mRNA and adds the corresponding amino acids, building blocks of proteins one by one. This chain of amino acids then folds into a complex 3D shape, creating the final protein. These proteins are the workhorses of our bodies. They carry out a vast array of tasks, from building and repairing tissues to fighting off diseases, and even controlling our metabolism. In fact, virtually every process in our bodies relies on these proteins. So when we talk about genes determining our traits, what we're really saying is that the specific sequence of nucleotides in our genes determines the type of proteins that are made, which in turn influences everything from our eye color to our susceptibility to certain diseases. In essence, genes control the production of proteins, which in turn determine our traits. Genes are powerful, but does that mean they control everything about us? It's a question that has kept scientists busy for decades. Genes indeed exert a considerable influence on us, shaping our physical characteristics like eye color, height, and even some aspects of our personality. They can also determine our susceptibility to certain health conditions, such as heart disease, diabetes, and certain types of cancer. However, to say that genes control everything about us is a bit of an overstatement. Enter the world of epigenetics, where things aren't as straightforward. You see, our genes are not our destiny. They are more like a blueprint, and how that blueprint gets interpreted can depend greatly on factors outside of the genes themselves. Our environment and lifestyle play significant roles in influencing our traits and health, often interacting with our genetic makeup in complex ways. Take, for instance, the case of identical twins. They share the same genetic material, yet one may develop a condition like type 2 diabetes, while the other does not. How is that possible? Well, it turns out that lifestyle factors such as diet, exercise, and stress levels can influence how our genes are expressed, turning certain genes on or off. This is known as gene expression. It's like having a light switch, where the wiring is your genetic code, but whether the light is on or off depends on environmental factors. Moreover, our genes themselves can be modified by our experiences and environment. This doesn't change the DNA sequence, but it can affect how that gene works, which in turn can influence our traits and health. This field of study, known as epigenetics, is revolutionizing our understanding of genetics and human health. So, while genes do play a significant role in making us who we are, they don't tell the complete story. Our traits and health are the result of a complex interplay between our genes, our environment, and our lifestyle. Understanding this interplay is the key to unlocking the full power and potential of our genetic blueprint. So, we have journeyed from the mystery of our uniqueness to the microscopic world of genes. We've unraveled the enigma of our individuality, tracing it back to the genetic blueprint that shapes us. We've delved into the fascinating history of gene discovery, a story of relentless curiosity and scientific triumph. We've explored the intricate workings of genes, those tiny architects that construct our bodies and define our traits. We've seen the power of genes, their ability to shape us, and yet we've also acknowledged their limitations, recognizing that we are not merely the sum of our genetic code. Our understanding of genes is ever evolving, just like the genes themselves. They are dynamic, complex, and incredibly influential. They are the silent storytellers of our past, present, and future. Next time you look into the mirror, remember, you're looking at a product of a marvelous genetic journey.